Supernatural Season 6, aka the last season that I saw back in the day, even though I really didn't remember much from it, and heck, I completely misremembered the ending. That was nuts. So, I'm real glad to have seen this again. There were a few confusing bits, but given how Eric's era of the show, where he was showrunner, was all building in a five-season story arc, whereas I don't know what the long-term plan is for Sarah's turn as showrunner, although I do hope that when I go back to rewatch this show eventually, I'll pick up on more, given how I don't know Sarah's end goal yet, and how this season was made to be, a simpler yet mysterious season at the same time. Yeah, it's fine, because how do you really go on from the apocalypse? Because you remember that throwaway line that Sam gave to Dean right before Dean confronted Death in the diner, pizza place? Ace, remember when we used to hunt ragoos and shapeshifters? And Dean goes, no, I don't remember that. Well, we got a little bit of that again, which I think is nice, but I do appreciate how there were subtle movements, and it wasn't all just Monster of the Week, because there were plans for the long-term story arcs, the shifting of Sam coming back soulless, and then he gets the soul, and then trying to fix his mistakes. The reintroduction of Mitch Pileggi, which I had completely forgotten about, and then revealing that he's got some problematic things, even though you are somewhat on his side, although you can tell that he has been, not bewitched by Crowley, just, bribed, in essence, and then how those other members of the family get thrown into the mix. It was nice to have a bit of a recurring group of characters for once. Bobby and Kaz, yeah, but they aren't going to be touching them. So, closest we got to besides them were Ellen and Joe. Ruby doesn't count. So, it was nice to have more characters like that again, even though they do get disposed of in pretty much the same way. Then there was also the dynamic that Crowley has with Sam and Dean, and how he sort of has them around his finger for a while, then they rebel, it doesn't totally work, and then how he comes back again at the end, but then you start seeing Kaz come into the formation, and you realize that he actually is working with Crowley, and what Sam and Dean were suspected to know a lot is true, so there's a bit of double-cross angle, so it's just a very interesting web that they were able to spin here, which on a pretty much first-time viewing, because as I said, I really remember nothing from when I saw this season 10 years ago. For a first-time viewer, I didn't pick up on everything, but I think down the line I'll be able to figure out enough of things, because some of that dynamic that Crowley was having with the other main characters, I forgot some of it. The true importance of the Eve character. The thing is, I feel like I'm missing something, but at the same time, I am almost certain that all I missed was like one simple line that would have tied everything. So I kind of feel like I'm overthinking it almost. Because given how she starts off as seemingly the main enemy that Sam and Dean are going to have to deal with towards the end of the season, only for her to explain that she's just one more person that is annoyed at Crowley, even though it's monster demon character versus other monster demon, it's no one has like pure motives in this season, which is both good and bad. Good in that they're going for a different angle, and it's trying to keep us binge watchers on our toes, but it's also bad in that it's just tougher to keep track of, even though this is the only show that I'm watching. Yeah, so I appreciate what they're trying to do. I just wish I felt that much better about it, because I really don't need that far to go. And then the falling out of Dean and Lisa. I did pick up on bits of that. I do recall that from 10 years ago, but this, yeah, I feel it. Because one, I'm older, and then two, I'm watching this show from the get go, seeing how it all falls into place, and yeah, you can just tell how much of an impact he had on them, although I can't help but feel like. Um, he never was truly honest because there's this line that keeps getting repeated in the intro segments before I fast forward through them because I don't like watching intro segments for any show anymore. Sorry, previously on bits because I'm so good at picking up stuff that if I watch those things, I'll get clued in to what's going to happen in the episode. So it's best that I don't do that. But there was a line that kept getting repeated. The moment Sam walked through that door, I knew it was over. So that kind of implies that she knew what Dean did, but then there were other times that it was as if he never truly said it. So it's like, no wonder it didn't end up working if I'm reading that little bit correctly, that he never truly told them what he did. He had the time, but yeah. But there are some things that if you don't mention them to people, sometimes it just doesn't end up happening. Because, well, me, for instance, there's a couple of people who don't know about my pen pal, and who I think I've mentioned a couple of times, and I just never end up mentioning my pen pal when I'm conversing with them because it just... Huh? It's not necessarily a bad thing, it just never happened. Although in Dean's case, yeah, kind of a big thing to forget. Though what he did at the end, yes, it was necessary, but at the same time, he didn't just do it out of fear. He did it for love, too. Because if it was fear for them, he would have just walked away in that hospital. He wouldn't have gone to them, where they have no memory of him at all, reintroduce himself, and telling them that he's sorry, even though his sorry is deeper than it appears, but they're like, it's alright, even though what happened was horrible, it worked out in the end, and we believe you. But yeah, like that, nice. It goes to show you how much I've matured in all this time. And I also do like that Weekend at Bobby's episode because, yes, we're very familiar with how Bobby works, but he was always sidekick character to Sam and Dean, which is not a bad thing, and you don't see Jim Beaver complaining. You can tell that he loves the role. But we never once saw the roles reversed, where Bobby was like in the driving seat, and they did, after all, never fully give Crowley never really did give Bobby back his soul, though he did give him back his legs, so it was like, yeah, if he's willing to do that, he'll make good on it. Especially, you can tell at the end, Bobby isn't concerned at all, so now you just have the resolution of it. And it also helps add to the mythology with the bone burning bit, although, like with how Crawley comes back within the last few episodes, I can't help but feel like there's one mythos bit that I missed. Oh well, I still love that. And also the French Mistake episode, there was a lot more trivia little moments that I was able to pick up in there, although it wasn't just because of the trivia track. Because the first time I watched this show, I don't even think I really picked up on who Eric Kripke was, or who Robert Senior was, because of course, even though Robert Senior is Bobby's real name, Bobby is of course based in part on the producer Robert Senior, because Eric on a whim was just like, yeah, let's do that. Right. I still remember 10 years ago when I first watched that episode, because back then, I had no idea that Jared and Genevieve were married in real life, so when Dean goes, married! Oh my God, I was laughing so hard because I knew that that definitely was not fake. Just the way that they were all acting, that was completely real. So, what a pleasant surprise 10 years ago, right? Okay, is there anything to discuss besides the ending? I can't think of anything, honestly. So, the ending. Well, it's a twist that I didn't see coming because the way I remembered it, I did remember that um, Sam and Dean showed up to try and stop Crowley performing some kind of a ritual, but I remembered it being that he succeeded and he was the one that embodied whatever the ritual was supposed to be because I distinctly remember. Brr. That's because me of 10 years ago was going through, I think, a bad period, so I misremembered Crowley trying to take control of Purgatory, which is obviously different than Hell. Hell, as Crowley getting whatever the heck it was that Kaz got in him. And I remember saying, well, isn't he the type that would, get bored with power? But actually, if he's got minions to work for him, he can just do all kinds of wonders. And even then, maybe he doesn't want power. Maybe like with the Joker in The Dark Knight, he just wants chaos. Huh? That could be. Because I don't totally get the character, but obviously the character's coming back. Because I think even though Kaz might have exploded him like he himself was exploded last season, I don't think that's the end of the character. Something tells me that he's going to come back, and if I'm eating my words, well, double whammy for me, right? But, right, so Kaz being the one that actually has the embodiment, and now it's like he has God in him, or at least something pretending to be God in him. Well, it's an interesting bit of direction to make Kaz the bad guy or the main obstacle. Take your pick. But it does show not so much growth, but at the same time, I can't think of any other way to describe his increase in capabilities, except for maybe literally just those words that I used, because Season 4, he's an angel that is trying to help Sam and Dean, but he's just one angel amongst many. Season 5, he's a weak angel that has some of his powers remaining and through various loopholes keeps managing to help Sam and Dean all the way to the end, but then he is given mercy by presumably God, and then he gains his full power, which is how he's like here, but now he's a changed person because you see him interacting with Sam and Dean. There's various times that he's cut off and various times that he is acting as if he's a human. So he's gaining more understanding, even though why he couldn't just dive into, what's-his-face, Jeffrey's conscious memories, because as far as I'm aware, every demon has always been able to access the memories of their meat suit, so why can't he do that? I don't know. Or maybe it could be because Jeffrey is dead, or at least was mortally wounded before he took over, so maybe. That's interesting. I don't think about that. But yeah, so he's different than he is in Season 4. Same capabilities, different perspective, albeit not much, but the way that he was sitting in that his version of heaven and just saying things to the camera, well, it shows that he's different. So what's his end goal here? Who knows? He might have said it and I missed it. He might say it next season. I don't know. But I am looking forward to it, even though I did feel like it was kind of sudden. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's been curveballs before. Lilith being the final seal. Dean's supposed to be the main vessel for Michael, but then Michael sees Adam, who, by the way, as far as I know, is still in the cage or whatnot, because Death only got Sam's soul, which reminds me, yeah, that was a good episode, because that episode I remembered, but I did not remember the ending, because I did recall it going bad for Dean, but I didn't recall Death deciding to help anyway. But in a way that helps make the character better, because he's like there is an advantage to me doing this, even though you can tell that his main reason for doing it is because now I don't have to deal with the two of you potentially interfering with any business that I have anymore. But at the same time, wouldn't he be free from the spell that Lucifer did? Because if Lucifer's in the cage, then Death can't do... Huh. I don't know. Maybe we'll see Death again. Maybe. Because they're setting the character up with this season to have the potential to come back, but it's the kind of thing that you can only bring back the character once or twice a season, just like Colonel Flagg in MASH. A very popular character that all kinds of people remember, but he's only there a couple of times. And even then, they retire him after a certain number of seasons, because yeah, he appears in 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I think he appears in 7. Right. Okay. So that was a great episode where Dean was deaf for a while there. But then Kaz, yeah. I really wonder, because it's not like Smallville, where I feel like I missed a whole bunch of things in like season 8 and then was confused about the mythos for a while. Here, I feel like I'm only missing like 1 or 2 lines, and then all of a sudden, I'd have it. Not that it really matters, because by the time you see this, I'll be probably done with the entire show. Okay, see ya.